So if you've watched my last few videos, you might be thinking that I only like bargain yarn or only like cheap yarn. And while I do love a good bargain, that isn't 100% the truth. Let me explain. When I first started crocheting, I, like most people, really didn't know anything about yarn, and that's totally normal. So if you're in that spot right now, just know that is normal, and as time goes on and you use more, you will find out a little more about what you like. And those of us who are a little more seasoned probably already kind of know what we do and do not like. And I am of the opinion that there are yarns for lots of different purposes. I am not a yarn snob. I won't only use something. I think that there are great yarns that are made of silk, and I think sometimes Super Saver's the right yarn for the job. It just all depends on what the job is. And recently, I was on a day trip to Des Moines. I went to the Des Moines Spinners and Weavers Guild, or Weavers and Spinners Guild. I will put a link up here to that video I made talking about that because it was so fun. The big thing about it though is if you were a person who was new to yarn and didn't really know what to expect, you might have ended up with some pretty serious sticker shock. This can also happen if you're used to picking up your yarn at like the Walmart or any just big box store, and then you wander into a local yarn shop and you see the Malabrego, and all of a sudden you're like, oh my gosh, why is this so expensive? So let's talk about it. So I think probably the biggest difference is going to be that a lot of these yarns that come with a higher price tag, $20, $25, $30, $35, $40, $45, $48. You heard like the level of panic rising in my voice there. I'm kidding though. It's just one of those things where so much of it comes into play, and I just kind of want you to have a good idea why I think even though some of these yarns have a much higher price tag than we might be used to, or we would want to pay, that we're actually still getting a humongous bargain. So just, if I don't do air quotes every time I say expensive, just know that I mean it like that. I just mean a higher dollar amount is what I mean. I'm not meaning like, I'm not like putting worth to it, if that makes sense. So let me get back to the point then. The biggest difference you're going to find is that these yarns are often hand dyed, hand spun, and the amount of time and effort that goes into this is so much different than a yarn that's created in a factory. And I honestly don't think that these hand dyers and hand spinners are probably like, I don't think these are really being sold for like a true cost, if that makes sense. Like, I do think these are still a bargain. So hand spun yarn can be made a few different ways. It can either be on a drop spindle, which I have done before, not super successfully. I am still in the beginning stages. So let me tell you, like, I've got 2 drop spindles, and I've had the same like bit of wool on there for like 6 months. Like it's a slow process learning that. And then you take into account also if they are using a spinning wheel, like a manual spinning wheel, or maybe an electronic spinning wheel. You have the cost of the wheel. And again, it can take hours. It can take a couple days to be able to actually take that wool and that fiber and get it into yarn. And the same thing goes with hand dyed. When you're getting handmade yarn, some of the yarn will be from wool that has already been dyed and put together in like a braid or something, and the colors have already been kind of picked out. Sometimes, so these are from one of my favorite hand dyers and hand spinners right here. For these, she actually took bits of colored wool, put them on a blending board, turn that into a bat, and then take the bat and then spin it into the yarn. So you're looking at, an incredible amount of time and the resources that go into it. But I feel like, the results are just absolutely spectacular. Like, you cannot even remotely compare to something that came just from a big box store. Now, this particular one right here, the spinner actually took and started out with something similar to this roving right here. It wasn't this one. This is from Knit Picks because I got this with the intention of dyeing it. This started out like this. She took this, she used dye, she created a braid, got someone taking the time to figure out what colors of dye they want to use, how they want to apply it, and then the whole process of dyeing it, and then of drying it, and then to take it a step further and actually spin it into yarn. I mean, you're looking at quite a while as far as time goes, as far as how long this actually took to get from here to here. And these things are so evident. Sorry, it's warm up here and my hair is getting stuck to my face. So these things are just evident when you're looking at fiber that is like truly, truly one of a kind. So just from like an economics point of view, when you're looking at the fact that most hand dyers and hand spinners, you know, it's a person. Like one person, and they enjoy doing it. You know, when you compare, like a good example would be, if you live, like, say you live in a small town and there is a hardware store. You know, in the next town over, there is a Walmart, and you can get the exact same thing at both stores, but at your hometown hardware store, it ends up costing quite a bit more. Well, the reason behind this is because Walmart, or any big chain, they are buying such massive quantities to go to all of their different stores, and probably contracts that go on for years, where a much smaller retail has a much more limited budget, commitment, everything. And so the wholesalers are not selling them to the retailers as cheaply as they are the giant stores. And that's the same thing with the supplies you get on a much smaller scale. You know, when Yarnspirations is flying to Turkey and their buyers are looking through all of the different upcoming yarns that they want to have for the next season or whatever, you know, they're looking at absolutely massive quantity, where, you know, someone who is dyeing this might buy 10 or 12 of them. Not 10 or 12,000. And you'll find a lot of times these indie dyers and spinners, you know, they're using products that they really believe in, where, you know, a lot of stuff could be organic. The dyes that they're using, everything might be, you know, kind of above and beyond what commercial yarn would do. And so, you know, those things do end up costing more, and it inevitably makes the end product cost a little bit more as well, but you're getting a substantial higher quality. One of the things that I thought was so cool at the Des Moines Spinners and Weavers Guild Yarn Fest, Fiber Fest, was that there was a few different vendors there whom the wool like actually came from them. Like they were having alpaca or they were having sheep and they were shearing them and, you know, sourcing that. So when you really look at like the care and the cost and the treatment of feeding of vet bills for these animals, there's so much that goes into it. I mean, it's just, it's crazy to think, like from start to finish, what this yarn has gone through and how much it actually costs to get here. And I definitely don't want you to forget about the experience aspect of this. Like I said, I have been experimenting spinning some yarn on the drop spindle, and I did also recently get a used, older manual spinning wheel, and I am in such beginning stages of this. I am like just trying to get to treadle and not have the wheel accidentally go backwards on me. So like if you think about someone who is spinning this type of yarn, how many hanks have they made before the one you bought? How many did they make that turned out terrible, that they didn't get to use, or they thought was too ugly? You know, there's that learning curve and the cost of the expenses that went into learning it. Like, trust me, I wish that you could pick this up and be like instantly awesome at it. That has not been the case for me, and I doubt that it really is for other people as well. It's just that experience also comes at a cost. So let's talk a little bit why this yarn is so different to work with and why I love it so much. Some of the things I absolutely love the most, these are tonal yarns. They're not like variegated. I would call these more variegated back here, but I love the tonal look. I love seeing the different plies of the yarn together and the tones in the plies together. This particular yarn I am so excited to work with. I've got my projects narrowed down to like 2 different projects, but I want this to be good because this is probably one of my absolute favorite yarns, like seriously of all time. So I will share a little bit about this yarn here real quick. This was actually spun by Katie's Been Yarnified, and I will link her channel. When she was posting the picture and everything, I was like, those colors are 100% Shannon, and she actually named this 100% Shannon. So I love that so much. Michaels isn't going to name a yarn after me. That's for sure. So she sourced the fiber for this that she spun from Terra Fibers. And this is 100% merino wool, and it's 19 microns. And in this particular hank, there is approximately 250 yards, and this is a chain ply. I'm going to have Katie's information down in the description box, and I will have links to her YouTube channel and then where she sells on Mercari as well, if you want to look at some of her other yarns. She is one of my favorites, and then I already know my yarny BFF is Cydney, and she does some absolutely gorgeous spinning too. And these are her yarns here. Like I said, these are just my 2 favorite hand spinners and dyers. I don't think Katie dyes, but I know Cydney dyes and spins. So how do you know if you should spend or save or splurge or whatever? So what I would say is that I want to, when I use these particular yarns, I really want to make sure this is a statement piece. And since this is such like soft merino wool, I want it to be like touching my skin. So for something like this, I think I will make like either like a collar or a cowl or something so it can be right up here by my face and I can enjoy the softness and I can enjoy the colors of it. Now I will say, when you do have a little bit higher price tag, you know, you're probably not going to be buying enough to make like, you know, a duster or a giant blanket. Cute story, I was wearing a hat and it was wool. It was 100% merino wool, and it was from Knit Picks, like the yarn. It wasn't like it was this, you know, like this type of quality, but it was, I think I paid like $12 for a ball of it, and I used like 2 balls, I think is what I used on it. So like a $24 hat. So in the scheme of things, did not break the bank, but for one beanie, you know, but this lady that I'm friends with, she was so funny. She's like, oh my gosh, that is such great yarn. You should make an Afghan out of that. And I was like, oh no, I can't do that. I can't afford to do that. So, you know, like I said, these projects you're going to want to do a little more sparingly, a little bit smaller, and they can be like a nicer pattern, like something that's a showstopper, like something that's the rock star of your outfit to put these special yarns with. One thing that you can do if you are wanting to stretch your project a little bit further is to use very similar yarns paired. So I could take this 100% wool yarn, and I don't have one within arm's reach, so we're going to pretend that this is 100% wool yarn and that it isn't recycled alpaca. But these are both a sport weight, I think, and I could put these 2 together in a piece to make a much larger project. You know, I could make a very large shawl using most of this brown wool and then have like a couple stripes really stand out and really be the show-stopping part of that shawl by using this. You know, it is a great way to really kind of supplement and make the project go a little bit further if you do want to do that. But again, you have to be very mindful that you're using the same weight of yarn and the same fibers. What I have been doing as well with some of my like more commercial made yarn, like the cheaper yarn, is I've been using that a lot to work on some of my like pattern prototypes and really get a feel for like the weight of the yarn. And like if I'm trying, because I'm trying to start writing some patterns and, you know, I want them to turn out. And so I'm like making several versions and, you know, I'm not going to use this as an experiment, I am going to make sure I have my pattern down perfect before I use my good yarn. That's just how I personally like to do it. You know, I have talked on multiple occasions about how one of the things that I have tried to work with so much these past few years is escaping like my poverty mentality from childhood. And it is not an easy task, I will tell you that. And when I started getting into yarn, I would have thought you were crazy if you would have told me to buy this type of yarn. I really would have. I was trying to get as much yarn, as much yardage as I could for the lowest amount of price. But as time goes on, I have really seen the value of spending more and getting something that is, you know, truly one of a kind and made by an artist, someone who really cared, like someone who wanted this to be absolutely beautiful and someone who worked hard on it. And, you know, it's not like it's a baby, but it's like it's their baby, you know? That, trust me, the people in the factories for Yarn Inspirations or wherever, they do not have that same sense of pride and accomplishment when a skein goes out. Skein. So I have just a couple more quick tips for you that I want to share. If you're not ready for, you know, buying handmade yet, what I would encourage you to do is to experiment with some different fibers from someplace like Knit Picks or We Crochet. They're the same company, but where, you know, they do have great sales on some yarn that is a little bit nicer than I would just find in a big box store. So, you know, experiment. Drops is another one that I really like as far as getting some different fibers. I've done some videos from Wool Warehouse. Also, Wool Warehouse has their house brand. I want to say it is Yarnsmiths. And you can get some like merino, some things like that, and really experiment with them and see which fibers you like. Do you like alpaca? Do you like merino? What is it? Like, what is your fiber? So that way, when you are given a chance to buy something like this, that you'll know you already like the fiber, you'll know how it lays, you'll know you will like those aspects of it before you even try it. When I went to the Fiber Fest, like I knew when I was looking at these yarns that I wanted sock weight, I wanted wool with like a 20 or 25% nylon because that is my favorite to work with. Like I already knew, you know, off the bat, like I'm gonna like working with. So if you are a little bit skittish about that investment, experiment with some more commercially made fibers and see which ones you do like. The second bit of advice I will say is that, don't get me wrong, I understand the economy is tight and we don't always have the extra cash on hand for things that we do really want, and that's just a fact of life. You know, where we are in life depends, and it's something that I don't want to take lightly, but what I would encourage you to do is to make an effort to try some hand spun yarn and work with it and really allow yourself to enjoy it and enjoy the rock star piece you will create from it. And if it's something that, you know, it just isn't in the cards for you to buy all the time, you know, there are things you could do. You know, if somebody asks you, you know, birthday present, you can say gift certificate, you know, different things like that. You know, I kind of allot a certain amount of money every month to yarn purchases, but I don't buy yarn every month. It seems like I've bought a lot lately, but that's not the normal. It's just the thing where, you know, if I wanted to save up a few months, like I definitely, when I went to Fiber Fest, I had cash saved up that I had not spent on yarn and that I had available because I knew that the skeins of yarns I was looking at was definitely, you know, craft made. Like it was going to cost more than if I went to Michael's. If you are remotely interested in giving it a try yourself, I would encourage you to do what I did and start with a drop spindle. I've got a video. I will put it below, and I've got different links in there of different things that you can purchase and get for relatively low expense. I know like my drop spindle I got was like 20 or 22 bucks. You know, I spent maybe 20 or so bucks on fiber. So it's definitely the least expensive way to get started spinning, but you might be surprised how much you appreciate it. And once you understand like how much goes into it. And Cydney has a playlist I will link below as well. It's like a beginner spinning series where she kind of goes over things you need to know, basic stuff, all the good stuff. I will link that below if you want more information than my beginner video, because trust me, she's way more experienced than me. And if you have any questions about the spinning or dyeing or these types of yarn, put them down in the comments, and I will make sure that Cydney and Katie like look through the comments if you have a question for them, and so they can answer that for you. And if you are scrolling around down in the description box, you will notice that I do have an email sign up down there. It is totally free. I kind of took a pass last month and it was super easy, but this next month coming for July, I'm really working hard on it, and I'm really trying to create something extra special for you. So if you would like an exclusive email and video that is once a month for me, go ahead and sign up for the email down in the description box. I will talk yarn again with you soon. Bye.